All right, welcome to Spooky Stampscapes. We have a piece of half-page, cheap, vintage paper here. It's sold as a letter size, but I've just cut it in half here. And this particular piece, they usually come in packs of kind of multi-patterned backgrounds. This one happens to have a nice, strong vignette around here, so I thought that would make a nice glow here. And on this scene, we're going to be trying to use the flower field from one of the latest releases from this past year. And I'm going to be putting some pumpkins in there, interspersed in there. I know that's not the, pumpkins don't grow in nice even rows like this, but we'll see what it looks like. I think it could look pretty cool, perhaps. All right, so this isn't going to cover edge to edge right here. So I'm going to have this little bit of space to each side of this field here. So I'm going to fill it in just with an easy fill-in, which is the tree trunk. Now, where did I put that tree trunk? I just had it. But now I think about it, maybe I'll use the Art Foamies one, which is a little bit bigger. We can go with a really big one right here and a smaller one like this, perhaps. And that might be kind of interesting. Huh. But let's put some pumpkins in front of one of these tree trunks just to vary the foreground a little bit. Hello, Megan. How are you tonight? All right, so I'm going to be using my hybrid black ink for all of these impressions. You can use something like a VersaFine Clair. You can try out something like a dye-based ink pad. Like a Memories one is really nice and thick. Just something that has a little bit of body to it, a little bit of a thicker ink would be my preference on this type of printed paper. It has printer inks on it. It's still porous, and it's not sealed off with those printer inks, but just having a little bit of a thicker ink, in my opinion, is probably going to yield a little bit of a better impression here. So anyways, give it a try. Okay, so let's go like that. Let's do a little bit of layering here. Okay, I'll go with this trunk right here, and let's go with the larger one like this. I wasn't thinking about doing this larger one in here like this, but when I thought about it, I thought, well, why not? Hello, Linda and Beverly. Good to see you. How's everyone doing? A little bit of an impromptu live stream here. Thanks for logging on, and probably, I'm guessing you're all subscribed with the notifications bell clicked. Thanks for being on that. Okay, just a small portion, I'm guessing about, I don't know, maybe 30% of this image right here. This is the really large Art Foamies. Now, like I said, I was going to use the smaller, just the wood-mounted tree trunk on both sides, but I thought, well, why not go with this little bit of a larger scale here like this to really push the depth in the scene. It might make it a little bit more interesting and certainly varied, I guess. Okay, now let's do a little bit of masking behind this one right here. Going well, thanks, Megan. Hope the same with you. Watching all the news with everything going on in the southeast. If anyone's down in those areas, I hope you haven't been affected by what is it, Helene? Okay, this tree will go right in here, so the pumpkins will be at the base of the tree. was going to say, in theory, I guess it's an application. Right, let's go about right here, I guess. I hope I closed in this area enough for that flower field. I think I have, though. Allowing the ink to transfer onto the paper and maybe soak into the pulp a little bit. All right, some of those pumpkins right down there. So I have pumpkins in front. That ink really transfers pretty well. There's not very much ink left on here. Sometimes I think of these art foamies as absorbing a decent amount of that ink. Maybe sometimes they do. Maybe if it's the dye-based ink that I'm using, but the pigment ink, or this hybrid ink, seems to give a pretty good transfer. Seems like there's no more ink left on the art foamy stamp than there is a rubber stamp, just using dye-based ink sometime. All right, let's go with these pumpkins again. So like I said, we'll have some pumpkins in front of and some tree, or one tree, I guess. And we'll do it in back of this other one. I'll change the height of it a little bit. Instead of doing it on the same plane, I'll go a little bit lower here. Or you can go higher, whatever you want. Like that, okay. So it seems like a pretty good foundation. I mean, this is kind of our foreground in here. So let's see if I want some more of the same size pumpkin. I might want to change. I might want to change this at this point in time and go with some smaller ones. Let's take a look in here. Yeah, let's go with these ones right here. I'm going to be building these pumpkins on here. I'm not quite sure if I was to do this. There's a lot of image solid areas on this field right here, and I do want some pumpkins in here. So in theory, I should stamp out the pumpkins that are going to be within this body of this flower field, okay? And then mask them off a little bit, and then stamp this over the top of it. But I'm not going to bother doing that on this one. If I, deem it necessary, and if I want to do this composition again, I'll do it at that point in time. But I just don't feel like going in and masking, doing all that masking work. So let's see if we can just get by without that, and hopefully so. But we'll see. I want this to be kind of a moonlit scenario, and I want it to be kind of dark in that field. So I don't know if I need to do that. In other words, see these pumpkins right here? If I stamp that flower field right over the top of them, or the pumpkins over the top of the flower field, we're going to have all that imagery of the flower field all within that open space within the pumpkin like that. So that's, not preferred, but unless I want to do a little bit of masking, which isn't, a big deal, but I'm not like, I talk about masking all the time. I'm not anti-masking. I just, I don't feel like doing it most of the time. Unless I have to. Masking beyond like the use of a, torn paper towel or something like that. All right. So let's go like this right here. This is going to be an issue. That's really dark right there. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a little bit of masking here. But I'm talking about I wanted extra pumpkins within this area right in here. So I don't mind doing this. This is not, not a hassle at all here. that might even actually fit. Not quite. I'm using that right for those pumpkins right there, and then we'll just do a straight edge right here on that tree, and then I just need a straight edge over here. Let's go with this, like this. Sorry if my head's in the way. All right. I was just looking at the base right here and the base over here, just seeing if it lined up roughly with the bottom of my card, just so, you know, when I stamp it out, the flower field's not at some kind of like noticeable angle. I don't care if it's off a couple degrees, but I don't want to be off like 5 degrees or something like that. Okay, I couldn't find my tack and peel covering for this, you know, tack and peel material, so it's a little bit taggy on my hands. It's sticking to it. All right, I didn't push down hard enough, right? Oh, no, there's a bit of a like lint right here. All right. Yeah, that's all it takes sometimes. I'll fill that in with a, you know, some like a colored pencil. But that stamped out pretty flush there. The reason why I don't have any gaps in between my image in the background and these foreground images is because that image goes, it's like stamped over the front of these images. But, you know what I mean? If it does that, it's not really any big deal. These aren't like outline designs where you can see it clearly going into like an open design that doesn't have any texture in there. So undermask and overlap your imagery. All right, so that is that. Let's see. I was thinking we could probably use one of the images, like a spooky chapel or something like this in here. Not the Victorian house. There's the larger chapel too, or that castle. I'm trying to think of which one of these I've used the most. So I can use the other, you know, one. I think I've used that larger one a couple times already. The smaller one I don't remember using. Someone watching will probably say, hey, you just used that like 2 days ago. It's like 2 days ago is like 2 months ago. All right, so we'll go with that right there. And it's kind of facing this way, so I'm stamping it on the right side of the scene. I'd rather have it facing the other way because this is kind of a little bit more of a heavier weight right here, this image. I mean, they're pretty balanced out, but if it was looking this way, I think that would be like perfect. So we're going with a little bit less than perfect here. But it'll look good either way. Okay. All right. All right, sorry for my head again. I have to get my bearings here and make sure that I'm not under stamping this and stamping it like way above that horizon line. All right, and see, I kind of filled in a little bit of that gap, or that chapel will be casting a shadow down here, you know, so even if it wasn't down there, I was just going to fill it in with colored pencil though. All right, so there's those. Now we can go in and add in some extra pumpkins. This little area didn't stamp out right here. I can just throw like a little pumpkin right in there, I think. Okay, is this the one that I just used? Yeah, it's dry. Here, I'll just use one of the pumpkins though. Okay, so this is a 2 pumpkin design. You can always stamp out less pumpkins. So if you have a grouping of 3 pumpkins, you can stamp it out in 3, 2, or 1 pumpkin, right? Or if you have a figure and you want them to have a pumpkin head, they can have a pumpkin head. You just don't color in the head of, some person stamp, and you put a pumpkin on there in its place. All right, filled in right there, right? All right, now we have some smaller ones right in here. All right, so the way this looks is the pumpkins are like that, so there's a base to them, okay? But now if I'm putting some of them back in these fields like this, what you're going to do is you're going to just take a kind of a rough, torn paper towel like this, or whatever. I guess the paper towel is the best. I was going to say you can use a napkin or something like that. Sometimes the napkins are a little bit too texturized. Paper towels are too, but I think a little bit less so. And things like napkins are probably a little bit thicker, I'm guessing. I don't know. All right, so let's go in and fill some more of these in here. I think that looks okay. We do have those flowers showing through them, but I'll just make them a little bit, the pumpkins back in the fields a little bit darker. Okay. And then there's some pumpkins. They're even smaller, so smaller you go, higher up in the composition you stamp them. Now I'm not going to put some, pumpkins like way back there in the horizon or something like that. I don't have pumpkins that small. Maybe next year. There's some things that I've figured out that I wish I had included whatever in the sets. But I don't know, the sets were so full and jam-packed full of imagery. I don't think I could have fit too much more into these Halloween sets anyway. As it was, I was kind of like really fighting for some space in them and trying to edit. I'm trying to think of if there were some. Let me see. Were there some designs? I'm trying to think if there were some designs that didn't make it into the set just because there wasn't any more space on the plates. All right, so I think there's pumpkins right through here. And again, if you just joined in, one thing I mentioned is I know pumpkins don't grow in these tight little rows like that. They're all over the place, those vines. But, that's artistic, whatever, liberties here. All right. So there we have it. Some pumpkins throughout. All right. I hope you like how this is going, and I hope it's not like too scary for some of you. All right, let's see. Where's my, here we go. Stamp that I use all the time, Tiny Rock Small. We have this area down here that's, largely unaddressed with anything. It's just blank right there. If this is a larger area, that would be a pretty cool spot for like a word stamp. The word stamp up here would be a little bit tricky. You can go down here in the lighter area, but I'm going to put this other figure right in here and a moon up here. But anyways, if this is just the visuals, objects in the scene, as far as the scene goes, without any text or word stamp. In these areas like this that aren't really addressed, I like to go in and add shading and texture into those areas. This is just some rocks, just stamped out individually. It looks like that. So I would add a lot of those, but I'm adding on a lot more lighter tones with them these days, and kind of using this almost like a toning, like a textural toning applicator right here. So I can add it in where I want there to be a little bit of a shadow, and I start tapping it in that area every time I re-ink it like this, and then I tap it out into that lighter area, so we have this transitioning value scale. Okay, so we'll do that right here on this one too. We'll put a few taps down underneath it in a little bit of a darker tone, and then I'll transition into that lighter area like that. So it's a little bit darker, lighter, lightest like that, because it's going from wet to dry. Up here, it's going from darker area here and lighter down this way. So it's going top to bottom. This one's going from left to right, and this one's going from right to left, kind of away from your objects, you know, the way they're casting that light. And this one right here, a little bit. Condense a little bit more in here, maybe. I like to make my four corners of my scene kind of darker, so this getting a little bit more texture is giving me a head start in terms of kind of creating a little bit of a vignette here. This paper already has this vignette type of look here with these darker corners like that, so this is a page that's been cut in half, so I'm just kind of adding that vignette there that would have been there in the full sheet of paper. I'm looking, yeah, it's like something like this. You know, the full sheet of paper, it's like dark in the four corners like that. So if you do it in half like that, you can reintroduce kind of darker corners like this, you know, to contain your scene a little bit more. And that's why they put these vignettes on these vintage papers like that. It's really nice for compositional containment. All right, so this, maybe I'll use this too. Here, let's use this up here in that little area that I had that little bit that didn't stamp out there. I can just kind of fill it in like that. All right. Now, that would look pretty good right there. Of course, it would be the opposite like this. I want to use this, I was thinking about this Grim Reaper out here in this field like this. But I want a moon over here. I was just thinking about just doing a moon like this with some white pigment ink and just using a 1-inch cutout like that to add my moon, but you know, this is sitting right here, so I think that might add a little bit more mood to the piece. So why not? Let's use Spooky Moon Large like this. I'm going to wipe off the edges a little bit so they'll be a little bit drier on the perimeter. So this kind of more well-defined interior like that will be a little bit darker, and then off to the edges like that it'll kind of dissipate a little bit. Okay, let's go right here. I'm going to put it a little bit off center. I don't want it right above this center flower field line. Well, I guess you could. Maybe it'd be pretty dramatic that way, but what I'm thinking of is I don't want too much of this, too much of this texture right here, right over here. Well, I don't know, maybe there would be less. Anyway, there's that moon like that. We'll illuminate it too with the use of some white pigment ink. But I think this is coming along pretty good. I don't know. let's do that later. Let's illuminate that moon here. Let's go on here. It's not quite a 1-inch thing. It's probably like 3/4, but I don't know. We'll just go with it here. I don't have like a 3/4 inch hole punch here, so I got to use what I have. Let's see. Cotton ball. Okay. 100% cotton ball. I don't know what they call those balls that are synthetic, you know, acrylic cotton balls, I don't know, whatever. Those ones don't work very well, if at all, because they don't absorb enough media. They kind of wick, you know, moisture away. All right, so see that right there? I've kind of transitioned it a little bit. It's a little bit heavier on the bottom like that. With tone. And let's go with that. Where did the Grim Reaper just go? Let me see. All right, I'm blind or something. Or did I already take him out somewhere? It's the problem with stamping, you know. We lose everything. We lose everything right in front of our face. Okay, let me see here. Did I put him right back on the plate? Does anyone see the Grim Reaper? Yeah, right. This is nuts. It's probably like right underneath here, right? It is time to clean my desk, apparently. I almost lost a couple things in the course of shooting this video right now. All right, where on earth is it? It's not in there. Oh my gosh. Needless to say, these live streams are not scripted. Where'd Grim Reaper go? It's a small stamp. It's not a... Oh, here it is, right here. See, I think I got it from right up here, so I just didn't recognize it. Apparently, things need to be, like, right exactly where I am used to seeing them when it comes to new stamps, maybe. All right, let's see. Yeah, pumpkins in here. If you have any skulls, that's one of those things I didn't draw. I didn't have skull imagery. I would have had like space for them anyway, but on the plates, there would have had been 4 Halloween plates, but it'd be kind of interesting to do this flower field like this farm with a bunch of skulls kind of in there. And maybe it'd be more kind of appropriate for this Grim Reaper here. Okay, I'm kind of seeing where he'd go. I'm going to put him right here. And I don't want his head to go right into that. I should have wiped off a little bit more right there, where it would have stamped out a little bit lighter for my subject matter that was going to go right in there. So I tried to plan it out a little bit, but, you know, sometimes plans go a little bit haywire. All right. Let's see here. Masking off a little bit down here, where his feet are going to go. Okay. Okay, I'm going to try to go right underneath that texture up there, because I just noticed his sickle is right up there like that, and I don't want it getting kind of lost in that texture of that spooky moon image, okay? All right, let's go try to go for a nice dark impression. Like that. Yeah, okay, see that sickle right there? I just missed it a little bit. If it looks like if it was going in front of that, it would have been dark anyway, but it just stands out as a silhouette a little bit better just against that bare piece of paper, even though there's like only like 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch in between that and that little bit out there. And that's the part where I kind of wiped off some of the ink. So it's a little bit more grayscale. All right, now let's see. Let's add in, let's take a look at these flying bats. I think that'll be perfect for up there in the sky. It's that smaller, or I don't know what I call them. Bat small, maybe? I'm not sure. Okay, let me check this. Oh, no, that's not the bat small. That's tombstones. You can use them as bats, though. Forget that. I don't even. Oh, here we go. Right here. I haven't used all these images yet, so. Okay, let me see. I'm checking out the direction of these bats, and these bats are going that way. I was thinking those tombstones were these this image right here. All right, let's go over here. I was going to put them going in front of that moon, but that's not going to work like that because these ones right here stamped over that darker texturing right there, you're not going to be able to see it, just like I was talking about with that sickle. The sickle has a little bit more of a defined kind of shape to it, but these bats are just like this. So I think if I had them in here, they just get a little bit lost. So let's do them in this open space like this. And let's put them, since they're flying over to the left, let's put them to right of center so they're going into the scene still. All right. How about some foreground here? I really need a, there is a smaller version of this one. I'm not sure if I have it kind of aiming the other way though, but it's a nature set number 12, the lighthouse one. But let's do this. I can have it going like that. It's a little bit better if it's kind of hanging down though. Go like this. I'm just kind of using small portions of it. All right. Let's add in a little bit of lower level foreground imagery. We'll go with multiple impressions of the reeds large. And it just layers it a little bit more. It extends that kind of, I don't know, whatever, the range of imagery within that space. It kind of sits the pumpkins into the scene, maybe a little bit more. Now, Okay, that's the composition right there, which is this type of stamping surface done in this style. It makes you can make really quick work of a scene, because this is a scene. I mean, you can add in a little bit of color to it, but it's already fairly well toned and shaded. Okay, now we have all of our objects in here right now. So we'll do some like specific areas of additions of shadow work. But like I said, I mean, if you want to color some of these, like, give a little bit of an orange tinge to those pumpkins, you certainly can. But I kind of work in the same kind of color scheme as the paper itself to kind of give it that, in this case, that vintage antique spirit. So here's, I don't know, here's a little bit of a brown. This is dark brown right here. It's kind of within the, like I said, the same kind of color scheme as the paper itself. So it should kind of harmonize a little bit. With that background, I'm going to have that moon casting a shadow on these pumpkins right here. So a little bit of transitioning tone right at the base of the pumpkins, and kind of going out from that shadow. Okay, now the Tiny Rock Small Stamp used as a texturing device already kind of gave me a big head start to this whole shading work. Okay, but it's just textural, so I'm just going in and reiterating what I already did with those texture applications like that. So see, this is a little bit more lit down here. Let's go with this one a little bit more. This one right here, I'll have the angle of the shadow going off at a little bit more of an angle. These pumpkins right here are more straight down like this, okay? Like this. That one's a little bit angled, not very much though, okay? Here's our Grim Reaper. They're casting a shadow, and some of these pumpkins within the body of the field can be toned in. These pumpkins in here with that moon, whatever in front of them or whatever, can be a little bit more, can have a little bit more shadow on the back side of them like that. Okay, this one right here again is a little bit more of an angle, so maybe I'll have like this side a little bit more illuminated. These ones over here a little bit more top illuminated. This one over here, maybe the shadow work is a little bit more to the right side of it. Just like a subtle little thing like that. Okay, see how this is, if this is like a ball, then the light is right over here on that. If you want that to stand out a little bit more, that shadow work, then you just make the area behind it a little bit darker. But here's this tree trunk, and this tree trunk is also being illuminated, so we'll keep this side of this tree trunk a little bit lighter, and we'll darken it on the far side of it, on the left-hand side. So opposite with this one right here, we'll go a little bit darker on the right side, and we'll leave the left side a little bit more illuminated, or a lot more illuminated. But we'll kind of transition it where it's going from darker, kind of medium, to light like that, okay? Not just dark and then light like that, okay? Because this tree is supposed to be kind of round. So you want a little bit more of a transitioning tone. So see, this is like your mid-tones right in here, and this is a little bit darker out here. You can see the kind of the lighting scheme is starting to come into focus a little bit more. Let's go with the black colored pencil. Hello, Leslie. How are you? Thanks for checking out the live stream. and checking out. The title of this piece is Happy Days on the Farm. All right, let's see. Going in here and kind of adding some black into that dark brown shadow, but maybe a little bit more towards the object. So it's a little bit more of the black right up here, but the dark brown kind of came down here a little bit more. So you see these a little bit more of a developed shadow because it's darker, you know, where the closer to the object that's casting the shadow. So it's varied from darker to lighter like that. It just, you know, if you add in different colors into your shadows too, it just makes them look richer. Let's make that kind of interior lighting, you know, from the moon a little bit more developed. So I'll go darker on the far sides of each of these tree trunks. Alright, so lighting's getting a little bit stronger. I'm going into the body of the trunk here too. There's some shadows within there. You can see them all in there. I'm just kind of going in there and reiterating that shading kind of structure on the design. And let's see. Let's go ahead and give it a little tinge of orange in there. I think that would be helpful. Let's go with that. Some of those pumpkins, I mentioned this the other day in my scenes, that it seems like those really big pumpkins are a little bit redder. So we'll make these ones those kind of giant pumpkins, that reddish orange color. I'll blend it though. I'll add in some of the lighter orange too. All right. Yeah. Here's kind of a lighter orange. Apparently I used this on a few times on those pumpkins so far, I think. Because I don't use orange too often, but this one's like, it's looking a little stubby. I'm not coloring in the whole pumpkin with it. I'm kind of hitting it in the darker areas or just on portions of it, just so that we have a little bit more of a varied color scheme on each one of the pumpkins. I think it looks a little bit more, oh, I don't know, I guess natural, but also a lot more varied looking, just for, I don't know, visual interest, rather than having like all of these pumpkins like colored, you know, the same way. I'm kind of hitting the shadow areas with this one. This is a light color, but I'm hitting the those lines kind of going down the pumpkins. Okay, that. All right. Trying to decide if there's anything else here. That glow in there is a little bit uniform. Let me see if I can kind of tweak it a little bit. I'm going in here with the brown. I'll kind of come with some streaks across it from one side like that, and just for variation, maybe I'll come into it this side, but I'll go a little bit higher up here. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better. It's not just this like glowing, like, you know, like cotton ball in the sky or something like that. Here, I'll go and be a little bit more gutsy. Darken it a little bit more like that. It's a little bit more muted and eerie, I think. All right, let's see. I wanted to do, we've got all these little creepy crawlies in here. I thought we can add some more imagery in here. Let's see. There's like the spiders right in here. You really can't see them too well, but if someone like took a closer look, it's like, oh, you know, there's a bunch of bugs in there. All right, now let's see if we can go in and add a little bit more visual interest. Going in with some white. In this case, I'll add in some additional highlights from this moonlight in here. You received your order today. Great, great, Leslie. I hope you enjoy those stamps there as much as I'm enjoying them. It's opened up some, whatever, thematic ideas for me. I can't wait to, I always can't wait to sit down in my, stamping area here and stamp out some things. But with these Halloween ones, I'm really getting I'm getting scenes that I've never seen before. You know what I mean? Just because I didn't have the stamps for it. So there's all these like different looks. So okay, so I illuminated the lights, the windows on the church here. And I'm not sure if I should use too much of this. Let's give a little bit of highlights in here. This is the white paint pen. Let's put some of the little highlights on some of this foliage down here. All right, it's kind of looking a little bit more sparkly, and you can do this because there's white in the moon. So if the moon is white, it stands to reason that it would be casting its light into the whatever the scenario, the landscape here. So you can have this kind of same color being reflected back up to it. Okay, so I'm not doing too much because this paper is, it's toned in completely. There's no white of the paper in here. There's only the white that we kind of created. Okay, let me put a little bit of highlighting on some of this tree here. I'm trying to keep it really light because I don't want just like this straight line down here. Okay, I just want a little bit of a kind of a hint of some of it. Shading on the right side of this trunk, okay? And then we're highlighting some of the left side features of the trunk. In here, like so. And the opposite on this one. I just flipped it upside down just so I have better access to this, tree trunk. All right, let's go into some of these pumpkins. Hit them with a little bit of details. Maybe their stem can have a little bit of a highlight on them. Might be kind of an interesting thing to do. Like illuminated stems on all the pumpkins. Or just a little bit. All right. All right, now I'm just kind of scribbling around. I didn't want too many big applications of like white and reflected light because it would kind of detract from that lighting. And there, maybe, if I had everything just kind of sparkly and illuminated in here. Although a little bit of those glowing little orbs might be kind of interesting in here. like fireflies or something like that. It might bring these kind of darker areas to life. There's these textures right here that are such a big dominant portion of the scene or the composition. I mean, they act as frames too, but kind of putting a little bit of a glowing little, fireflies in here might be pretty interesting. But let's see, let's go in and add in some extra little fog features in here, because I always love doing that. Okay. It's that little bit right at the base of that Grim Reaper. Yeah, the Grim Reaper was all like one value. It's just black, from top to bottom. So now we've kind of varied it a little bit more. And let's do this. Let's put some fog back into the rose, but I'm not going to just add it in like this. I think it'd be better if I do it like this. And do it in kind of like layers, maybe? Or I don't know what you would call it. Streaks? Not streaks either. Something like that. Now see, there's barely anything there because I wanted to see it. I wanted to make sure I was kind of doing the right thing. As far as something that, you're going to add in there that, will look kind of interesting. All right, so see, that's there. I just put a little bit back in there. Let's put some down around these pumpkins, I think. All right. Kind of adds that soft lighting into the scene. All right. A little bit more atmospherics in there, like that. The part where I'm debating is if I want a little bit like right over here, like on the horizon. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's try it over here, just to vary it a little bit more. Let's see how that looks. I think that looks pretty decent up there. Let's do that over here. I'm adding white over a kind of a light area, so it's not showing up super well, but it is a different light or white than the paper, so it does show up. It's just, it seems like it barely shows itself. Then it's like suddenly it's there, so kind of apply it, I don't know, whatever, methodically, for the best control, okay? On this paper right here, you don't want to put too much of it. It's really quite porous. I could still erase some of it and remove some of it. I don't think I can remove like all of it. So, just apply a little bit at a time. Or just do it with a drier applicator. Okay, don't have too much ink on it, and then you'll always kind of be applying whatever the appropriate amount to in terms of control of application. What happens is if people run into troubles when doing this, it's like 98% they've just have too much ink on their applicator, so they're getting blobs as they apply it, okay? So the way to not get blobs on your paper is just don't have a blob of ink on your applicator. Have it like almost like dry and almost powdery. Okay. Anyways, I added a little bit more in there. I thought that looked pretty decent around in here. Let's go a little bit more in here. I think that looks pretty decent. When you add this in at first, it stands out a lot of times because it's lighter. It has a little bit of a different texture, and so you start adding it around, and it becomes just part of the overall textural scheme of your piece. And then you can add more. You know what I mean? From a visual standpoint, where it's just kind of merging in with the overall lighting and texturing of the piece. So I just add a little bit at a time, and I kind of do it universally around a bunch of different things, and then I go back and it's like, okay, do I want to add more anywhere, or do you like it there? I do. Would it look better with a little bit more? I don't know, you know? So you can do that or whatever. So it's just like kind of bringing your piece into focus a little bit at a time, and kind of overall, as opposed to just kind of working in one area to completion and then moving on to the next area. Just kind of do a little bit in each area and decide if you want to add more to any of them, or all of them, or some of them, whatever. But I think that should do it. I'm trying to think if I want anything more. I'll be matting this piece. You know, this is just a flimsy piece of cheap vintage paper, copier paper, something like that. I think most of the examples I saw where people use these vintage papers, it was to print out documents on it, giving it a kind of a, I don't know, an aged look. It looks really cool, you know, when you're printing like documents or something like that, or certificates on this type of paper. So it's really cheap. So I'm going to mount this on something because it's just too flimsy of a, you know, to mail it out as a card. But, you know, it's really inexpensive, and I'm looking at this. I guess some of my ink did soak through, so you can see how porous this paper is and thin, which is a good thing because it accepts the ink really well. So colored pencils work pretty decently on it. You can't build it up like a textural, like cold press, you know, colored pencil or pastel pencil paper or something like that, but you can get a decent amount of things on it. And if you want to, I mean, if you have some Copic markers or something like that, you want to kind of add a little bit of a tone or richness into any of these areas, you can do it with the Copic markers like this. This is probably soaking right through, but see this tree? I don't know if you can tell, but see, it's like a little bit richer. This is just a really pale, like peach color or something like that. Maybe look, you know, it can look good on the pumpkins too. So yeah, you can kind of play around with multimedia on papers like this as well. Let's see if it's soaked through. And this pen's not like super juicy, but you can play around with that. I think that looked pretty good. Let me see this right here. No, it was too yellowy. Too yellowy. Let me see this orange. Might be a little bit too bright. Yeah. Testing it out. A little bit too bright. All right, I want to add another, like, you know, 10 layers of things on this piece right here. I just, you know, for the most part, I just wanted to see what this, what these pumpkins could look like in, you know, with the flower field like that. And I think it looks pretty dramatic. I mean, you can do this in the daytime too, where you do those leaves and they're green or whatever, greens and browns. like a pumpkin patch. And like I said, if you just joined in again or at some point in time, I know pumpkins don't grow in these nice rows like that, but I think it works as in terms of creating a farm type of situation. It doesn't have to be a horror thing. If you had like a barn back in here and you had a bunch of these little pumpkins in daytime, they're nice and bright orange. I think that would look pretty interesting as well. So, someone gave me the idea for this being used as a pumpkin patch when this first flower field first came out. And they told me that they're going to turn the flower field into like a potato patch or farm. And I thought, oh, that'd be a good idea. Then it got me thinking, oh, okay, I want to come out with some Halloween designs. So I want to make it like a pumpkin patch as well or something like that. So I don't know, you can plant whatever you want really in those rows. All right, folks. Thanks for checking out. Whatever. A day in the life of a pumpkin farmer scene. Hope you liked it. And yeah, another little experiment here with the new Halloween stamps. It's the first time I stamped a couple of these out in here. I think I did all pumpkins before, but that Grim Reaper, if I stamped it before, I was just doing that test impression, but I don't think I've used it in the scene yet, and the same thing with the bats up there, so I like the way they look. And I really like these, it's like a chapel right here with that interior illumination like that. You can do it in white. I did it in white to match the white of the moon right in here, but let's say if I didn't have that moon in there, I might do more like a yellow or a tan or something like that, like a warmly lit interior structure, and that might look pretty nice as well. Oh, sorry. I know there's like one other thing here. Okay. Speaking of lights, I forgot about that. I was going to add in those little fireflies in here. There's 5 right there. And I'll do 1, 2, 3 right there. Odd numbers, right? Or something like that in terms of composition. Again, just kind of a drier application of your pigmenting. My pad is kind of dry. And we go in and we illuminate whatever these are, fireflies, or they could be little orbs, where they say if you go and photograph certain things, it's like little orbs or like spirits or something like that. I don't know, that's what my brother told me. All right, I was just going to add some around those tree trunks, but that stood out a little bit too much. I'm getting some pigmenting into my pen there. Okay, let's see. All right, so there we go. It's like little hovering little lights in there, It's that farmer right there. He likes little like lights, decorated for the season there. All right, there we go. Done. Yeah, do little fireflies in your pieces, everyone. If you have like dead areas, I mean, don't those kind of wake it up a little bit? So if you have, okay, so the other thing is if you have like open sky area or something like that, stars like that, The only difference is I don't have like every star glowing like that. You have some of them glowing, some of them not. But I think I don't know. It kind of woke it up a little bit in the foreground, especially in there, like in the shadow areas where there was like zero kind of visual interest. And I don't think they're so big though either, where they detract from taking the viewer's eye in here. There's just something to look at. You know what I mean? For the viewer, or whoever you give your card to, when they go back to it, it's like, oh, there's lighting in here. That's a little detail. I don't know if they notice that right off the bat, unless you're giving it to as another scenic stamper or something like that. But those little fireflies in there kind of wake up the piece, So it's my illustration instructor once said, or I don't know, one of them said, you reward your viewer for further inspection or something like that. So if someone's going to take a closer look at your cards that you make, have little kind of things, in there for them to discover upon second or third viewings or something like that, after that initial one. So, I don't know, something like this too. I was thinking I want to do another scene, kind of like this one, but I want to do like a cutout glow-in-the-dark moon for the sky. And we'll think about some, I don't know, kind of a good scenario for that type of thing, cut out glow-in-the-dark moons. So we have those big moons with the nature set number 35, the cabins now. So might be able to do some interesting things, or, you can have a moon kind of coming out over the horizon, like that. And something like that could be really interesting. You can have it like behind, like a chapel or something like that. Might be interesting. Hello, Cynthia. How are you? So, testing out another scene right here. Hope you're still having fun with those Halloween stamps. We're on October 1st right now, so whatever. 31 horror-filled stamping days left. Have a great rest of evening. I was about to say haunted evening, but maybe that's not good to say. All right. Hope to see you on the next live. Thanks again for joining in.